add myself to that stream so that way I can be live. All right. And I've got it going now. You got to love what we can do now, right? I am on 4 different platforms all at the same time. I am on Facebook, I am on LinkedIn, I am on YouTube, and I'm over here on TikTok. I know TikTok isn't integrated in over on this side, but it's so amazing what we can do with technology now. It just really, really is. So I hope everybody is having a great day. I know I am. I just got another cup of coffee. So early. We'll get started here at a little bit after 10 just to get started. For everybody who hasn't seen it yet, activating kindness as your superpower. This is what we're going to talk about today. You can download your free copy at my website, bekindall.com. It's a free download. You can go do that right now. And then behind me, you will see there's my book as I'm going this way, The Business Case for Kindness, because kindness is our path forward. Kindness is our future. And I am 100% sure of that, because if you all have not been paying attention to all the hate bills that are going on right now in some states, I live in the state of Florida. There's a lot of hate bills going on, especially around the LGBTQ community. And when you sit in those hearings, it's kind of hard to listen to the hate. And this week, if you haven't heard Barnaby's imps and demons and X-Men, and it was honestly the most disgusting thing I've heard in a really long time from an elected official. But good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here in a little bit. Grab your cup of coffee or grab your tea, your soda, your water, and we're going to sit down and have a discussion for a while and talk about activating kindness as our superpower. So I hope everybody's having a good day, and you have any questions, just go ahead and in the chat, I can see chat questions across the board. If anything, any comments come in from any of the things over on the one side, and then over here on TikTok, if y'all want to go ahead and put any questions in as we're going along, I'll be monitoring and making sure that I get those answered for you. So how is everybody today on this wonderful Thursday morning? I woke up, it was raining, and now the sun is out, and it's quite beautiful here in Panama City, Florida. So how's y'all's morning going? Hopefully well. All right, so it's a little bit after 10. So let's get started this morning. For those who've not met me before, I am Shri Krim. I am a reformed Fortune 10 director. I worked for telecommunications for 15 years, and I worked there and I became a process efficiency expert. And during that time, the amount of money I was able to save one company, over $250 million, just by coming up with good ideas and process efficiencies. And so what I saw the entire time I was there was the lacking of, in the leadership side, kindness. Yes, some leaders would have it. Most leaders don't. A lot of leaders still lead by the command and control culture. But that's not where we're headed. And I think you guys can start to see this with the newer generation. People want to be treated with dignity and respect. There is no more time to be barking orders at people and micromanaging. We can all work together, and we don't have to have leaders that are really not leaders. They're just managers who shouldn't really have the title. Because what I learned is a lot of people get promoted, but they're not given any type of training on how to handle that position. So that's where the Business Case for Kindness came from, the first book that I wrote. It was absolutely amazing. And if you haven't read a copy, you can get a copy, Amazon, my website, all of those things. It's out there. But the feedback was so amazing. I've been working with small business, nonprofits across the board to take this and to lead with kindness. So the KRT model is part of the book, and the KRT model is kindness, respect, and trust. You can't have one without building on the other. And so it's now morphed into its own book. So I'm working on that right now. That'll be the third book that I've written, the KRT book. model, I should say, the KRT model. And I'm working on that right now. And that will be out probably by the end of the summer, if not the beginning of the summer. So I'm just super excited for that. But today we're going to talk about activating kindness as your superpower. Working in corporate and working with companies, Fortune 100 companies, 500 companies, small companies, nonprofits, the one thing that I've learned is that people are afraid to have hard conversations. And I say afraid because they think that they're going to offend somebody. Now, that's not really the case, but we take it internalized and we have this feeling that that might actually be what happens, right? Somebody may take something wrong. So I decided, how can we, me, you, all of us, be able to have hard conversations and be able to help change the way that people think about things? So that's where activating kindness as your superpower came in. And for those who just joined, you can download a free copy. It is over on my website, bekindtoall.com. Free copy. You can download it, or you can order a paper copy for $5. But the free copy's out there. I would say go get this today. And we're going to go through it really quickly, the sections of it today. So I'm going to start with the introduction because I super believe that kindness is the future. It's our path forward. This book is simple, it is straight to the point, and provides a framework for lasting kindness in your life. Together, we can dive into how kindness can transform your life, your family's life, our communities, and our society. In this short book, we're going to learn about how activating kindness as your superpower. So, first step when you start thinking about kindness, how can you be kind to someone else if you're not kind to yourself? So step one is being kind to yourself. If you're on TikTok, I know I don't share it as much on the other social medias, but if you want to follow me on TikTok, you can hear some of these things. I talk about how being kind to yourself is super important. I go out and I take walks. I bring you guys with me on the TikTok, and we have, that's super important to take care of you. Because if you're not kind to yourself on a daily basis, how can you be kind to anyone else? Think about that for a moment, right? If you're having a bad day, do you take it out on other people? Do you start your day thinking, how will I be kind to myself today? And that is part one, being kind to yourself. Each morning, waking up and going, what am I going to do for myself today? That is not being selfish. That is actually, what are you going to do for yourself? And I thank you for jumping in. Somebody did make a comment a little while ago. Thank you for that. I don't have any comments over on this side, but I really appreciate that. How will you be kind to yourself today? People think about the words work-life balance, self-care, all of these things have been floating around for a really long time. But if the pandemic showed us anything, it showed us that workers, they kind of treated workers as disposable in some situations, and some places didn't, and they were more kind. So being kind to ourselves is first. I want you guys to think of a question right now. How do you feel when your boss is treating you badly? How do you feel when your boss is treating you badly? It doesn't feel good, right? So that undue stress causes a lot of things within us. And we have to step back and we have to take care of ourselves. And by doing things to be kind to ourselves, that will lead into being kind to others and into activating kindness as your superpower. So 5 things you can do today that are kind. Tell yourself you love yourself. I know a lot of people might think that's strange, but it's not. You need to know that you are worthy and valuable and that you love yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't go down the negative self-talk side. You have to understand you're going to have bad days. That's okay. But are you being kind to yourself through those bad days? Next up, think about what you value. And what are your values for your life? This is really your compass for the future. Create a list of these values. What is it that you value? Do you value inclusivity, equality, or do you value hate? What is it that you value? Because that leads your life. Your values are how you live your life. Meditate, great way to take care of yourself. Meditation is always good. You can find one online. YouTube has plenty of them. TikTok has a few as well, but I guess I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of the TikTok and the meditation yet, but the YouTube does have many of those. And lastly, when you're being kind to yourself, we tend to want to react when something happens to us, react in whatever way that we feel at that time. Let's stop, reflect, and then respond. Make sure that you are responding and not reacting, because when you react, you might say something you don't mean. How many times have something happened and you say something and you're like, oh, later on, why did I say that? That's because you went and you just reacted. But if you take a couple seconds, even a minute, 2 minutes, 10 days, whatever the situation is, take the time to respond and not react. And you'll be amazed how much better you feel about yourself, because you are, and somebody's trying to come on. We're not going to accept anybody joining on the live. This is a training live. So I thank you on that. I feel like you have an HR background, the good kind though, not the protect the company kind. What's funny you say that. I actually have a whole chapter of my book, not a chapter, a whole subsection that HR is the problem. Because I was actually in operations. I did very well in operations. I was usually one of only a few women in the room the entire career that I had, because I was so technically inclined and I did the operational side of things. But I remember thinking at that time, why doesn't HR care about the employees? Why is HR? Why? I just watched, and I say this in the business case for kindness. Why do they allow the adult bullies to continue their jobs? Especially, there was a gentleman who, absolute humongous adult bully, yelled and screamed, sexually harassed people. He still has his job to this day. I don't even know. I can't even count on my two hands how many complaints I made about him. And I know everybody else did, but he still has that job today. And that's where I think HR is the problem, because they do try to save the company, because he apparently can do big things. So they let him keep his job. But if you treat your employees like crap, that doesn't work. So thank you for that comment. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. So start by being kind to yourself. Step 1. Step 2, being kind to others. Now, I know people think that kindness is buying gifts or doing other things for people. Absolutely, that's part of kindness. Yet there is so much more. So let's go to what the kindness definition is. Kindness is the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. So as we learned from that definition, kindness is much larger than we've been giving it credit for. Many of us were raised to treat people with kindness, yet many of us truly don't do that, right? Think about this. Think how ways you're unkind to people. If you are screaming at people, you are not being kind to them. If you're riding down the road flipping off people, that's not being kind either. Making fun of how somebody looks or talks, that does not work. That does not work at all, because that is not being kind. Judging someone for who they love or the color of their skin, sharing on social media, anything that is hateful about another person. So locally, I have been called a pedophile, a groomer, a killer, because I stand up for LGBTQ and women's rights. I got called all of that within my government building when I stood and I spoke to my elected officials. And it's quite amazing. I looked at them, I'm like, do you even believe what's coming out of your mouth right now? Or do you really just want to say these hateful things? What I've learned is that when people say hateful things, it's internal, because they're not being kind to themselves. Because back to step 1, you have to be kind to yourself to be kind to others. So, step 2, being kind to others. Doing these things out there does not, when you're doing them, you're not being kind to yourself and you're not being kind to others by doing these things. So, it's not fair to do and share and have those type of things. So, there's a quote by Desmond Tutu. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. And that's where we are right now. We have a choice. We can be upstanders or we can be bystanders. We don't have to be in the middle here. We have a choice. Are you going to do something about it or are you not going to do something about it? So, with all of that being said, when you practice cowardice in enough little things, like you don't speak up, you will be a coward when the big one comes. Because it's a muscle, right? It's something you have to practice, stepping up and doing these things and being kind to others. And, it's not just about the other person. It's also what it does for you, right? You standing up for another person also helps you build that muscle. So, have you ever noticed if you have somebody who gets caught doing something wrong, or if something is said, there's usually 2 different responses, right? One, they get mad or sad that they got caught. We're seeing that right now in the media when people are getting arrested for things that they did that are illegal, and they're mad that they got caught. Well, what they do, they knew what they were doing was wrong. They just are really sad that they got caught doing the bad things and trying to blame somebody else always. Or you have the remorse of having done wrong. They are genuinely upset with what has happened with the situation and they take responsibility. So you have 2 different ways here, and people are going to choose which way they want to do things. And we do have a choice on our values, our choice on our behavior, and we can choose to go along to get along, or we can choose to rock the boat or not rock the boat. We can be an upstander and we can choose to live by congruity of our values. So back to the point of where we started, values under being kind to yourself. What are your values? Because those lead you to everything else that you are going to need to do. So hate, fear, and greed is not our path forward. Most people will agree that we want kindness. It's not about who's in power. It's about who's using the power in the right and wrong ways. And by using our superpower of kindness, we can do amazing things. So being kind to others means being kind all the time and not some of the time. It means paying attention and doing the kind thing every chance we get. I know it may be hard at the beginning, but the more you practice doing this, some people call it allyship, standing up and being an ally for people. Absolutely, that's part of it. But this isn't just about that. It's about having the hard conversations of what's going on right now and activating the kindness and moving towards that. So I'm going to give you an example here. I remember the day that I put in my complaint about my hostile work environment. I talked about that gentleman already. Discrimination, yelling, screaming, along all the other things. He was part of it. But I also had my boss at the time. She was absolutely ridiculous. She was a misogynistic person who thought that men knew better than women. It was quite an interesting thing having her do that. But I had put in a complaint because it was so bad at this point. The sexual harassment, the bullying, the yelling, the screaming, all of the bad behaviors were going on. And of course, in a Fortune 10 company, HR was lending a blind eye to it. And so it took HR 6 months to actually go through and decide that nobody was doing anything wrong. So they actually made it so, yes, nobody was doing anything wrong. Well, I already had a plan because I knew how this was going to go, and I quit. Hey, hello, Workmen Not Ashamed, Panama City, hello. It's absolutely beautiful today after the rain. So 6 months, HR tried to gaslight me and tried to tell me it really wasn't that bad. Well, when you have 50 people in a department making a complaint and nobody doing anything about it, it's kind of hard. It really is. And so, a lot of us left. And it's kind of funny because you watch top talent leave companies. Why does top talent leave companies? It's because people don't take care of their people and they're not leading with kindness. So, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That's Maya Angelou. And when you lead with kindness and you're activating kindness as your superpower, number one, you're kind to yourself. Number two, you're kind to others. So let's talk about now how to activate it and what that truly means. I say kindness is contagious and it spreads like glitter. I think a lot of us love glitter, right? I know I love glitter. I actually took some to the Florida Capitol and put some glitter out when I was there. But who knows if anybody ever found the glitter, but the Capitol needed some glitter. When you are kind to somebody else, think about how they react, right? How do they react? Are they amazing or are they defensive, right? What is it that they do? Because back on values again, you've defined your values. If you are living in congruity with your values, you will not allow people to say inappropriate things to you. So, for example, just yesterday I was working with somebody, and I'm not going to give the context of it, and some statements were made where I had to correct them because they were going down and basically giving all of the talking points from Fox News and a whole bunch of lies. And I think and the lies just kept getting bigger as I was like, I don't believe what you're saying is correct. And having this hard conversation. And because I cannot allow somebody to believe a lie that I know is the truth. And that is, I'm not going to go out there and call you stupid for doing it. And that's why part 3 on activating kindness is your best friend in this whole book. Because when you start going through this, you will see that it's not about placing the blame on somebody. It's about having the conversation and touching hearts and minds and doing those things with the conversation. So your values are very important. And if you're not living by your values, do you feel good when you hear something that's going on that bothers you? Do you feel good about that? Probably not. It's probably very confusing. And you're probably wondering, you're probably in your head going, why didn't I say something? I should have said something. Well, now you can activate kindness as your superpower, and you can. So your values are going to lead you to discover a lot of things that maybe you haven't thought about before. And I have my values written down. Values are something that I truly believe in. I believe that everybody is equal. I do not believe that anybody is less than anybody else. And right now in our country, we have something going on where elected officials think some people are less than they are. And right there shows you their level of hate. And they're probably not being kind to themselves. And they're definitely not being kind to others. But that level of hate is something that we have to talk about and work through and have discussions. And when you have it one-on-one, that's where you change hearts and minds. So activating kindness, not just in business, but in your community. We have a lot of communities right now that are going through a lot of hardship, right? We have places like myself. We went through a hurricane more than 4 years ago. There are places here that you would have never known, that you would have thought the hurricane was like a week ago, because they are still sitting there destroyed. It drives me crazy how unkind and why we haven't cleaned that up yet, because that doesn't help anybody's mental capabilities, but having all of that destruction still there. But it is what it is, and we're working through all of it. So how do you talk to somebody who's being unkind or might be, have some lies in their head and they're talking about it? Well, in our call out culture, I know we like to just call people out and we want to shame and blame them. That's not the way. We know that. Shaming and blaming people do what? What do you think? What does shaming and blaming do? It puts somebody on the defensive, right? If you shame and blame somebody, they are going to go and be defensive. So, what you have to do is you have to take a different approach. And so I have an example conversation in the free download that you can get from my website if y'all haven't gotten that right. That's awesome. You know, if you're a jerk, there's no reason to come and do stuff like that. Like, why even bother? You know, it doesn't make sense why these people want to come in. Like, I'm talking about kindness and they come in and they say what they do. Wow, I just blocked somebody. What rudeness. Don't need those type of ness here. So, example conversation. Hi, and I'm going to say, hi, Bob. It was so good to hang out with you today. I really enjoyed our discussion on our city park. There was something, though, that you said that concerned me. You said that you thought more Black people would use it than white people. I'm making this up as I go along. And I found that this was very discriminatory towards Black people. And I wanted you to know the reason why I felt that way. And then you go back to your values. It doesn't matter who's using the park as long as the park is there for people to use. You put in a stereotype on this, and it really is really, I thought we're not supposed to see color, right? Isn't that what we're told? No, we do see color. And that is why he brought that up. But you go and you say your piece in a, number one, non-threatening way, number two, straight to the point, and give specific information on why it made you feel that way. I know it's tough. You probably don't want to have that conversation, but this is easy. Hi, Bob. It was so good to hang out with you today. I really enjoyed our conversation. Because you're not going in there making them defensive right away. And that is the key. There was something that concerned me, though. You said blank. And I found this to be discriminatory towards blank, and I wanted you to know the reasons why I felt this way. So if I ran into Barnaby in the state capitol, I would say to Barnaby, I wouldn't be able to have this nice conversation because he would probably run away from me. And if somebody's running away from you, your elected officials, you should probably wonder what's really going on. But that's a discussion for another day. So when you do this and you have this conversation, you are not responsible for how they respond to it. And they may react and not respond, which we talked about, right? The difference there. How they handle this shows more about them than it does about you. Because what is it that they are doing that is making it this way? What triggered, what got them so upset? So most people are really appreciative. I will tell you, I do this all the time. All the time. Probably one person out of every 10 gets offended. And if they get offended, they usually call me a name, which is awesome because, I mean, we had a conversation and now you want to call me a name. That shows me your maturity level. But most of the time, people thank me, especially in my very conservative area. They have not heard things like that something might be offensive. Like microaggressions, right? Like it's amazing to me, the microaggressions that still happen. And it happens a lot here where I live because nobody's ever said, hey, that's not really appropriate. You know, hey, that offended me. That's not something you should be saying, right? For example, my ex-mayor over in Panama City Beach, Mayor Mike Thomas, he said, don't hire anyone who can become pregnant. Yep. That's what he said at a city council meeting. I ran for city council after that. But nobody, I don't know if ever had told him. Well, I got up there and told him I would have fired him if he worked for me in corporate America, because that's the type of inappropriateness. But I tried to be nice about it because, well, he thought it was funny. And so did the other gentleman. And I wrote them emails and they weren't going to apologize for it. And that's the type of thing that's inappropriateness, and it has to be called out. So go down the good path, do it in a non-threatening, straight to the point, give specific information. And the fact that we do have a choice in this, it bothers people. A lot of people believe that they don't control their own lives. They believe that other outside things are controlling their lives. It couldn't be further from the truth, right? We control our own lives. We control how we respond. We control how we react. Now, we know that if somebody is hurting, that they're probably going to hurt more people. We've heard the saying, hurt people, hurt people. Well, you know what? I've been hurt a lot. I don't hurt people. I take kindness and I lead with kindness, and I do that. So by doing this and having these hard conversations, you will be able to just expand and be able to do so much more. I know multiple people over here. Somebody commented that level of insecurity is reflected equally by defensive negative behavior, trying to mask self-worth beliefs, right? So number one, being kind to yourself, because if you don't love yourself, I guess you're probably not being kind to yourself. So it all does come internally, and our self-worth beliefs. And by doing this and expanding this, by doing this, right? By stepping up for your values and stepping up for your coworkers. I'll tell you, I cannot tell you, I shouldn't say me and the I can tell you thing. I say this a lot. I'm catching myself doing this. I am absolutely appalled by companies in these states that are not standing up and saying something about the hate bills that are going on right now. I am absolutely appalled. You know, I remember back in 2016 when Georgia was going to pass a bathroom ban bill. And right now we're getting ready to do that here in the state of Florida. But I remember in 2016, how long ago was that? 7 years ago in Georgia, when that happened. Hollywood said they were going to pull all of the movies from the state of Georgia. And that was my kitty cat trying to jump up on the table. They were going to pull all of the things from the state of Georgia. Guess what? They didn't sign the bathroom bill. But where are companies right now? They have these things in their values, but they're not stepping up. And it just absolutely wow. It absolutely just drives me insane. So I appreciate everybody who's been here with me today. It's just 10:30. We've got time if people have got questions. I've got a couple people on both sides. You must be the change you want to see in this world. You know, we got to love our Gandhi on this. And being kind is our path forward. And I'm not going to stop, because kindness is the more kindness we have, the better our world will be. We don't need all of this hate. And you can see in my eyes, I'm going to tear up, because we don't need this hate. We need more love and more kindness. So any questions out there? Over here on TikTok. Hello, TikTok. If you haven't downloaded your copy, you can do that on my website. It is a free download, Activating Kindness as Your Superpower, at bekindtoall.com. So any questions out there? It's interesting, when I'm live in the Capitol, I get a lot of people asking questions. Now, I did have that one troll and I blocked him, but otherwise, yay. Well, I hope everybody has a good rest of your Thursday, and you go get a copy of Activating Kindness as Your Superpower, because we are the change we want to see in this world. And cheers to you today. Have some coffee, have some tea, be kind to yourself, reflect, do good things, and good things will happen. So bye, y'all. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn off TikTok first. Bye. And then I'm going to come over here on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and I'm going to say goodbye. If you haven't downloaded your copy, you can hi, Ashley. Good to see you live. Download a copy. Activating Kindness as Your Superpower is free on bekindtoall.com. And if you have any questions, contact me, because, I want to help us. We definitely are the change we want to see in this world. And I am going to keep going, because kindness is our path forward. So I appreciate everyone for joining, and you guys have a good rest of your day.